MCTMD1. Okay, this is another reply to a comment of yours, or really a part of it. You say that we know causality. The other stuff is conjecture. This is in my video, the critique of pure reason. Okay, I say no, we don't know causality. What we know is that we perceive, and that there's a series of these perceptions. So from that, you can abstract the concept of time, but you can't actually see directly that there is a causality, because we don't often see the causality in that stream. We have to look really closely in special cases and notice, yeah, it does look like there's causality there. So it's more like when we look closely, we see causality, but then we go right back to our way of living without seeing all the underlying causal relationships. Now, you could probably better than causality get me with the concept of time. That's more fundamental. That really is a part of perception. So for there to be a perception, there has to be a concept of time. Yes, there does. But, first of all, we are changing our concept of time over time. Okay, we have a classical idea of time, then with general relativity, you have timelines that split in terms of their rate, and then in quantum mechanics, you have the possibility of parallel times. Now, that may not be true in the end, but it's a candidate for a concept of time. And how are we going to determine between these concepts of time? We're going to look at reality, and and we're going to make a theory out of what we have seen, and it'll always just be a theory. It'll always just be a theory. Even if we could reason in a void about this theory, it would only be because our brain evolved in consistent space. I think if we saw a void, if we were really in a void, a human mind, it wouldn't think. I think it needs stimulation. But even if it would, all it would figure out is how it works itself. If it figured out the law of if you put a brain in a virtual reality and gave it nothing but inconsistent perceptions, I don't think it would ever figure out a law of consistency. It wouldn't figure out identity the way we figured it out. Okay, but even if it did, it would only be because the human mind evolved in a world that was consistent, and it is built and designed to recognize consistency, and it'll do that even in random input. Even with random input, it'll look for and sometimes think it has found consistency because it was designed to do that. So that's why you would have that. And in the sense that anything can be as close to a priori as possible, it would just be because it's built into our circuitry and we have no choice because of the way the chemistry works, but to experience the world that way and with that idea. And I think there are actually very few things. I think there's a reason I could talk about later that through representational systems, that there's very few limits of that sort. We have many limits in our mind, but it's not really that we couldn't change our concept of time or any other so-called metaphysic. They're all theories, and we could change all of them. And pretty much all of them have good examples of ways they probably need to change, at least relative to their classic formulations.